more on this story, we can bring in Marc Pierini, visiting scholar at Carnegie Europe and former EU ambassador to Syria and Turkey. Good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today. Now, the Turkish president is in a difficult spot because on one side we see that Erdogan wants to prevent a mass exodus from coming into Turkey should anything happen in Idlib. But on the other hand, relations with the United States aren't going well for him in Turkey, the Turkey-US relations. Does Russia see this as an opening to strengthen ties with Ankara?
Well, I think ties between Moscow and Ankara have strengthened since 2016 after the failed coup. But on the particular issue of Syria, this alliance between Moscow, Tehran, and Turkey is not exactly very solid for a simple reason, which is that Mr. Erdogan keeps saying that there is no future in Syria with Mr. Assad, while, of course, both Russia and Tehran are intent to give the Assad regime full control on the territory, including on the borders. So there's a fundamental difference there. Where there is an objective alliance is counterterrorism, because in the Idlib province, you have several thousand foreign jihadists, many of them Chechens and Uzbeks that Russia has no intention of seeing back, and many of them also Uyghurs that China doesn't want to see back, and probably a few dozens of Europeans and Turks. So everybody wants to contain these people. Probably Russia wants to eliminate them. But of course, the difficulty is to sort out who is a civilian, who is a jihadist. And obviously, everybody would do the same. Mr. Erdogan wants this to happen on Syrian territory, not on Turkish territory. That is the difficulty at the moment. But clearly, we've seen that in the Tehran summit a few days ago. There's a clear intention of Russia to eliminate all remaining jihadists.
So what outcomes should we expect from this meeting today, if there's so many differences of opinion regarding Idlib?
Well, I would say that on the political divergences, we will not see any outcome. They will leave it on the side for the moment. The best outcome would be an agreement that refugee camps would be set up on the Syrian side of the border with the Hatay province in Turkey, and that there'll be a sort of localized ceasefire, if you want, where humanitarian assistance from Europe, from the UN, could be provided. But that will not prevent a massacre of the jihadists, which is in the cards for Russia and Tehran and, of course, Beijing as well.
Let's talk about the European Union here, because the EU has also warned of a bloodbath, potential bloodbath happening in Idlib, but the EU also doesn't want to see an exodus of refugees coming to European shores.
Of course.
So,
yeah. Indeed, the agreement between... Yeah.
No, I wanted to ask you if the EU can sway Russia.
Well, I don't think so, because the EU has not played a major political role since the beginning of the Syrian revolution. It has played a major humanitarian role, and Russia is probably rather happy about the EU being confined to this role. So what is quite possible, and there is most probably contingency planning going on right now, is that the EU is equipped to provide via Turkey humanitarian assistance across the border to the immediate vicinity. It's not without dangers. We've seen that in other locations in northern Syria. But if there is an agreement between Turkey and Russia, maybe some safe areas will be set up, and the EU can come in with humanitarian assistance. On this particular point of refugees and counterterrorism, it is quite clear to me that Turkey and the EU have exactly the same objectives and the same risk. None of them wants to have jihadists hiding among flows of refugees. In addition, in Turkey, you now have a the tolerance ceiling for refugees has probably been reached, and in this mountainous area of the south of the Hatay province, it will be extremely difficult to host hundreds of thousands of people. So certainly Turkey will want to avoid that.
Okay, Marc Pierini, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today.